Hi, everyone. Welcome to PeopleMetrics Live. My name is Alexandra Quintero, and I'm the Senior Director here at PeopleMetrics. And today we're going to be reviewing how to stop losing customers that you should be retaining. With that, I'm going to introduce our special guest speaker today, Lior. Why don't you take it away for a quick introduction?
Well, thank you very much for hosting me here. My name is Lior Arussy. I've been in the customer experience space for over 25 years. Founded and led a boutique firm called CRITICUL, where we were in charge of leading our clients through customer experience transformations, working on both sides of the equation, the employee and the cultural side, as well as the customer experience design. We've got the privilege of working with some of the best brands out there, from Mercedes-Benz to Delta Airlines to Johnson & Johnson. They've entrusted us with their work. And in addition to that, I published over 8 books. So that's who I am.
It's great to have you, Lior. This is Sean McDade, founder and CEO of PeopleMetrics. It's great to be here today as well. People who've tuned into PeopleMetrics Live before know me. I'm a familiar face here, but it's great to have you, Lior, as our special guest today, as our kickoff PeopleMetrics Live for 2022. This is our first one of the year, and I'm thrilled to have you here. We've known each other for quite a while, and we've exchanged ideas over the years around CX and other topics. And, I know we have a great show in front of us today.
We certainly do.
So Lior, let's start the conversation, because that's what this is, generally a conversation on PeopleMetrics Live, although we have a few slides we'll show today throughout the broadcast. So a lot's changed in the last 2 years, right? In the world. The world has changed dramatically. How do you think the CX industry has changed over the past 2 years from your perspective?
It's an excellent point, and I think we're not fully grasping the transformational change that our clients have gone through in the last 2 years. Let's take a simple starting point. Each and every one of us as a human being and as a customer are accustomed to what I call the safety net of authorities. So if there's something you don't know, Sean, you're going to count on an authority to help you out. So if there are financial issues and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to go to a financial planner or to your banker. They're going to help you out. If there are medical issues, you're going to count on your doctor, the health system to help you out. If you don't understand life for some reason, well, the academia will produce a great deal of thoughts and ideas around that. Some people will count on religious authorities. Others will count on the government as a form of authority. And when the pandemic hit, here's what happened. All of our authorities said, I don't know. Even on a global level, the World Health Organization, the UN, no one knew what was going on. For the first time, we saw our safety net of authorities collapsing. And we as human beings stared at the abyss. Nobody could guide us because nobody knew. And I think that this extreme helplessness that we have experienced produced a couple of things. For some people, extreme helplessness, which manifested itself into higher consumption of drugs, alcohol, depression, anxiety, and so on and so forth. And for others, an extreme empowerment. And I think if we were accustomed to a customer who knows what he or she wants, we're now facing a customer is extremely more empowered and accepted the authority to themselves. They're now the source of authority. We're merely the toolkit in which for them to build their future. Let's look at a couple of things. The Great Resignation. The Great Resignation is showing us that people are sick and tired of operating in a certain way, and they want to re-author their lives. They are in a different state of mind than 2 years ago, where they just went to work, were thankful to pay the bills, and life was great. It's not, and this is a major change. We have seen in the first 5 months of the pandemic, the same amount of people who adapted to digital in the last 10 years have adapted in the first 5 months. Major change. Digital medicine have changed. DIY have changed. We are reprioritizing. We are learning to live with with things that we didn't think that we can live without. We are comparing prices again and again. The customer that's coming through the pandemic and out of the pandemic is fundamentally different. And the first role of customer experience people is to understand that whatever persona you've had until the pandemic may not be relevant anymore. That persona is evolving.
So it sounds to me, and I totally agree with this, Lior, it sounds to me you're saying that the customer is even more powerful than they were 2 years ago, right? We're in February now, 2022. February 2020 was a very different time for the world, right?
Absolutely.
And the customer has gotten smarter. They've gotten more powerful in certain ways, and especially certain segments of customers, which we'll get into in a second. But, what can the CX professional, what's the CX professional doing differently or should be doing differently in 2022 than they were 2 years ago?
First and foremost, understand what is the customer priorities, because they have deprioritized. They're learning to live without international travel, 80% decrease in that.
Yeah.
They're learning to live with certain things, and they're heightening other areas. We are accustomed to deliveries now. We need oregano. We're not going to go downstairs to the store. We're just going to order oregano. Why not? So first understand and do a test on your personas and understand if you actually understand what their priorities are and if they're aligned with your value proposition and with your service level. That's the first thing.
Yep.
Second thing, I was flying on United recently, and United spent a lot of time showing me all the cleaning lists that they have now incorporated into the aircraft and outside of the aircraft, and it's all high level with Clorox and Cleveland Clinic. And I thought to myself, Sean, that's my new standard now. Yeah. I'm not going to expect them after the pandemic to go down to the old way of cleaning. I'm only expecting more. So look at how you responded and how other companies responded to the pandemic, because they might have extended the level of expectations moving forward. So priorities on one side, expectations on the other side. First, check that you actually understand your customer and you are aligned with where they are today.
So it's almost like, obviously we're a customer listening company, right? So that's our business. And I know you've done a lot of that over your career. It sounds like 2022 is a great time for a check-in again at a holistic level on what are expectations, what are behaviors that are different than there were. And business as usual, what you were doing 2 years ago, if you're still doing it now, is probably not a great idea from a listening perspective.
Yeah, and I would add one question to that, which is, how did COVID-19 change your priorities?
Yeah.
What happened to you with COVID-19? And a lot of the customers are still trying to figure it out. But ask them that question, point blank. How did COVID-19 change your priorities?
Now, Lior, there's a certain segment of customer that you and I have talked a lot about over the years and recently that is outside the norm of most customers that I think we really need to touch on today. And it's one that, we're going to call high impact customer for our purposes today. And I define that as a customer, one, you simply can't afford to lose. There's a lot of other characteristics of them, but losing them makes you feel like there's some sort of pit in your stomach that something very bad has happened to your business. Could you comment on kind of the whole notion of a high impact customer, why every company out there, no matter who they are, no matter what industry, should care about this, and kind of what your thoughts are on this topic?
So first, Sean, when we talk about high impact customer, let's first elaborate on the definition, because I think some people will automatically associate it with dollar value, and it's not always dollar value. So do you want to maybe elaborate a little bit about what do you regard as high impact, and why did we choose the word impact as opposed to value, which is what some people relate to?
Right, because a high impact customer they will be valuable in most cases, but in some cases they may not, from a customer lifetime value perspective, they may not fit your criteria of someone who is generating a lot of income today. It could be someone who has great potential to do so in the future. It's someone that has expectations, like you were saying in the beginning, that have been heightened because of things like the pandemic. They tend to be more demanding, and their requirements simply are different than they were in the past, and they may change in the future. But they're absolutely vital to the business. And like I keep going back to the definition, it's customers you simply can't afford to lose. So There are certain industries where you can't afford to lose any customers because there's so few of them, right? In a B2B context, if you have 500 customers, you're probably going to want to keep them all. But if you have millions of customers, or in some cases, billions of customers as the world goes global, there are a certain segment of them that you simply can't afford to lose for a number of reasons. Some of them can be money, value. Others can be their opinion leaders and thought leaders that influence lots of other people. And it also could be just people that are in a growth mode that you really want to target and are vital to your business in the future.
So let me build up on that. And I would say that high impact customers are customers who are touching an emotional value to what you sell to them, not just rational.
Yeah.
Let's take a simple example that we're all familiar with. In every airline, you'll have the economy and you have the business class and sometimes economy class in the middle. The stats are that the 12% that are flying business class represents 75% of the profits of the airline.
Yes.
By paying business class, they are attaching an emotional value to this trip and are paying a premium for it, as opposed to people sitting in the back and may not have the same amount of emotional value and financial value associated with that. The notion that we will, let's say, survey both of them the same way, treat the same way both of these individuals is insane, because the 12% will be statistically insignificant in the totality of the 100% of passengers, and their opinions, preferences, needs will disappear within that context. So high impact customers are customers that we absolutely need to understand that their experience with your products or solution is very different than the majority. And you need to recognize what drives them, how they think, and how to make sure that you're not losing them to the large number rule that will make them somewhat disappear there.
You know, Lior, that emotional connection is a really good point. And it goes across industries you might not even think of. So we do a lot of work in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry. And, you know, we work with companies who are supporting patients who have rare diseases. These are life-threatening diseases. These are life-saving drugs that are able to extend their lives and improve their quality of life. And the amount of service and focus that they have on these patients, which are in the hundreds or low thousands, are very different than, you know, a statin for a cholesterol problem that there's millions of them, right? So it's a very, like, would you treat those people the same? Like your doctor says, Lior, you have slightly high HDL today. We're going to put you on a statin versus Lior, there's a life-saving medication that can extend your life, and there's only 2,000 of you.
Correct. So the notion that there is a risk when you treat your customers on a numbers game, the high impact customers can get lost. I believe that the case that you talk about with the rare diseases are often related to as orphan diseases. Why? Because most pharmaceutical will not bother, because the numbers are not playing there. They would rather go for the millions as opposed to the 200 or 300, right? But at the same time, the emotional attachment, the risk associated, the value perceived is night and day. It's you can't treat a driver of a Mercedes and a driver of Kia in the same way, because the driver of a Kia most often have purchased a vehicle to get from point A to point B. It's a rational situation for her versus the Mercedes person who have aspired to this vehicle, have paid a premium, and is attaching an emotional value to the experience. They cannot be on the same platform in the same way that I will not go to Ruth Chris's steakhouse and expect a $1.95 McDonald's hamburger. There's no way they'll produce it because they're a totally different place.
That's one of my favorite examples. Both food,
Yes.
right? Both serving some sort of same utility in some ways. The requirements of the experience extremely different.
Might came from the same cow, okay? Might have the same amount of cholesterol that you just talked about, right? But totally different experiences. One was sustenance, the other was a celebration of a life event.
Right. And one thing that you touched on with that great example around, 12% of passengers are business class and they produce 75% of the profit. And that gets us into this 80-20 principle, right? Which this isn't new. This is something that people have understood for a while, but I don't know if it's been acted on as much as it needs to be now, especially now. So what this essentially says is, in some ratio, you said 12% of passengers produce 75% of profits. It's typically what we talk about, 20% of customers produce 80% of something good. So it could be 20% of customers produce 80% of sales, 80% of profits, 80% of growth, and it may be 15-85, who knows, but it's some sort of ratio that is nonlinear, right? It's something that shows that a small group of customers in almost every industry provide a disproportionate impact on the company.
Absolutely. And the problem is that when you are product centric, you look at market share and they become just another number in the market share totality. When you're in customer experience, you've got to separate them because they are totally different. They cannot be on the same platform of service, of delivery, of attention. And you'll be shocked, but companies are still treating them as a one-size-fits-all and lumping them into one size. I'll give you a great example. As you know, one of our flagship cases was Mercedes-Benz.
Right.
And I created the following scenario for the dealers to understand the challenge. I said, you're opening the service center at 7:30 in the morning. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a lovely lady called Amy, and she purchased a certified pre-owned C-Class, and she comes for service. And then there is an S-Class that comes after her, but in order, she came first, so she's going to be serviced first. And it just so happened that Amy is the secretary of the CEO who's driving the S-Class. Does it make sense to you that the CEO is now going to be in line behind Amy, who's his secretary? There's nowhere in the world in which she's prioritized over him. And yet in your one-size-fits-all, all cars are serviced the same. You're going to create some serious challenges when he's going to see that happening.
Absolutely. Now, Lior, we've come up with a kind of some characteristics of high-impact customers. Maybe we can share those, Alexandra, sure, on the slide. On a soon-to-be-published white paper that will be released into the world. So we talked about this. So these are 4 characteristics of high-impact customers. And maybe we could just go through these quickly and talk about an example or two. But we've talked about this already, right, Lior? High-impact customers have high expectations. We talked about these expectations may have gotten even higher over the past 2 years, correct, than they even were in February 2020.
Correct. Let's talk about them, and I would like to add another dimension here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we feel that these people are acting like they're entitled, and I often hear that from clients. Oh, they're entitled. They act like they own the place, and so on and so forth. I said, look, this is your business decision. They will continue to behave like entitled. Either they're going to be entitled in your company, or they're going to be entitled at your competition. So stop the philosophical argument around their entitlement. Yes, they're coming with a sense of entitlement, because they are attaching an emotional value to what you deliver. Guess what? If they're only going to assign a rational value to it, they will compare prices all day long and they'll leave you faster than you think. So they are coming with high expectations, either because you created them by promising them total customer satisfaction, 100% money back guarantee, whatever. You created them, and they're coming because there is a lot at risk for them if you fail. So let's humanize that high demanding customers and high expectations and try to look at what is there at risk for them if you fail. And the moment we see that, I think we're going to look at the demanding side in a much more compassionate way than we've ever done before.
Yeah, in some ways, Lior, in almost all ways, these people are the most invested in your company, right? Like they're investing in you as much as you're investing in them sometimes, right? In B2B context, you have customers that are generating, 20, 30% of the revenue of certain large organizations. They're partners with you in some ways. And then the expectations are, of course, high.
Absolutely, because there's much more at risk. When people tell me, oh, business to business, there's no real customer experience. It's all processes, it's all pricing, it's all purchasing and bids and RFPs. I said, you absolutely are missing the point here. There's a lot at risk there. The price point of failure is extremely high. And if you're going to neglect that, you're going to pay a much higher price than a B2C company that can send me a coupon for $25 at Starbucks and expect me to go away. And I will go away for $25 because the risk is not that high.
Okay, and then there's a second characteristic is distinguished, right? So the expectations are high, therefore the experience has to be special, right? They're expecting something special, something out of the ordinary, something different from what maybe every other customer may experience. And the airline example is a good one, right? Like the expectations of someone sitting in business class are far different than economy. And, the airlines learned early that that's something that they must curate a different experience, or these people aren't going to come back to their airline and contribute the way they are.
Absolutely. The good news is they feel special about your experience. The bad news is you need to deliver on it. Your alternative is that they would feel that your experience is just like everyone else, and then they will not have an emotional attachment. They do feel special, and they want that special feeling. So the good news is you wanted somebody with emotional connection. Here it is. Just deliver on it.
Yes. I mean, in one of it, in a book that I just wrote, we talked about how experience have to be created, right? An experience will happen whether you create it or not deliberately, but you want it to be deliberate and special. And this is, I mean, you've had lots of experience, Lior, in mapping journeys and how important this is to plan these experiences and don't let them happen by chance.
Yeah, the difference between when a company calls me and says, oh, we want to do a customer experience in our company, I said, good news, you've been doing it. It was just either boring or bad, but you have been doing it. You are delivering a customer experience. Now you want to make an exceptional one, we can talk about it. And the difference between those who are doing exceptional one or memorable one, as I like to refer to them, and those who are not, is deliberation, is curation and being deliberate about matching the right experience to the right customer.
Such a good point.
And right, Alexandra, the next one is you have to have a team ready to deliver that experience, right? So, IVR mazes and having a hard time finding a phone number is generally not the way to serve high impact customers, right? They need a team and often demand a team available to them. So it's kind of it may go against the grain on some of the things you might be thinking about and how to staff an experience, but it's absolutely the key.
Sean, you're stepping into a pet peeve of mine, and please allow me to use this platform and stage to share that as well. For the last 10 years, under the guise of digital transformation, we convinced ourselves that our customers really would like to have an app in which they can service themselves and they can sell themselves, and everything will be digital. And we are doing it in the name of convenience. Well, convenience is important. Let's make sure that we're not fooling ourselves. When we are digitizing everything and handing it to our customers in the form of applications and apps, we are creating an outsourcing of sales and marketing to our customers and service. Now, our customers are not stupid, because there is a cardinal rule in customer relationship, which is the profits belong to those who serve me. If I serve myself, I will cut the margins. I'm not going to pay you that much. So we think we're doing it in the name of convenience. In reality, we are really trying to do that in the name of reducing costs. But all we're doing is reducing value and reducing margins and reducing profitability. I remember doing a study for a bank that have shut down branches and moved customers almost by force to digital platforms. And I did a simple assessment where I asked the customers to rank the value delivered by the bank before and after. And before digital transformation, they ranked it 8 out of 10. After they ranked it 5 out of 10. The bank was floored. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars to equip them with new digital tools, only to find themselves in a much more reduced perception of value and an expectation that they will reduce their fees because now I am the teller and I am the banker.
A great example. And the last characteristic, Alexandra, can get to that. Delivered. I mean, it needs, this experience needs, you need to deliver on the experience to these folks, right? Or they're going to be looking elsewhere, comparing price, speed, personalization, all of it is something that is key to these folks, to these high impact customers.
Personalization, by the way, now with the extreme empowerment that we talked about, where every customer is now the source of authority, we are just starting the era of total and complete personalization. And most companies are saying, well, we can do that, it's not going to work. You know, I love to use the freestyle example of Coca-Cola. They build a reputation around that formula. We know better than you. We have a formula that you love and will make you happy in your life. Came freestyle, and it was the most humbling experience, I believe, for Coca-Cola, because they empowered you and me to create our own drinks. And we can decide that our drink today will be 10% Fanta and 20% Sprite, I don't know, watermelon, and the rest is Coke Zero. And that's our drink. Coca-Cola doesn't dictate a formula anymore for us. They became a tool for us to personalize it. And then the next day you'll have Dasani combined with Dr. Pepper and something else. The point is, we are at the cusp of the ultimate personalization of a one-to-one situation. We need to understand the customers are not going to give up their own personality in order to accept your predetermined formula. In the same way that they are giving up their jobs because they feel that the story, the narrative of the company is not the narrative that they have, and they want to live their narrative. They don't want to live the narrative of the company.
Here, this is a key point, and something that I want to make sure everybody gets out of this PeopleMetrics Live is that personalization is the opposite of one size fits all, right? And one size fits all has been an approach that has been taken many, many times and often in the CX industry. And you're leaving money on the table for sure if that's the approach. Not personalizing, not segmenting, and focusing on these high impact customers has huge consequences. And Lior, I wonder if you could share that example that you shared with me around the large account loss around that I think is a great example of this.
Yeah. And first of all, while we are all busy, see, in the survey business, we are addicted to our numbers. And the first number we're looking for is response level. How many people responded? We all want, so again, we're in this mindset of numbers, and the more they are responding, the better, okay? I remember once doing a study, and there was an operation outside of the US, and we wanted the employees' response. So it was outsourced. So the outsourcer came back to us and said, look, we don't want to interrupt people, but we want 100% participation because we want to show you that everybody cares. So we just took one person and he's going to do the service for everybody. So, one size fits all. Just tell us what the answers are and he'll put it for everybody, and that will be great. Now, going back to that, this was a B2B distributor, major distributor in the US, 37 distribution centers, conducting dropship for retailers and so on and so forth. And a comment came in the survey, and it says specifically in the verbatim, it says, if you're not going to call me in the next 5 days, we've been complaining multiple times, we will cancel the account with you. Now, because they service so many accounts, that comment was ignored. We raised it, we flagged it. They're like, oh, we get it all the time. Don't worry about it. That's not going to make any difference. The next thing we know, we drill down and we find out it's a major account of $200 million. They didn't act on it because it was just one of many, and statistically speaking, it was insignificant, but it was the buyer of a $200 million account. who canceled the account, and caused this publicly held company to actually issue a note publicly to the stock exchange that they just lost one of their $200 million accounts. And that was an excellent example how when you are so bothered by the numbers, it's very easy to take the HICs and lump them with all the other numbers that you have, and you want to show progress instead of showing improvement, and it's going to get lost in the shuffle.
Alexander, why don't you get to that very first slide? So there needs to be a different approach. That's to high impact customers, right? So if we look at this 2 by 2, and if you look at the costs that you have to resolve an issue versus the impact of the customer, a traditional approach works when you have lots of customers that doesn't cost much to resolve issues. That's where most folks are now. But if you have, and everybody does, if you have high impact customers that you must keep, can't afford to lose, have to curate experiences, must resolve quickly, personalize, it will cost more, but the benefit will be there. And it's just a very different approach. And I'm excited to introduce this to everybody with you, Lior, because we've been thinking about this very thing for a bit.
I think it's the next look. It's the next evolution in the industry. Mm-hmm. If you cannot please everyone, continue to track everyone. Your McDonald's customers, that's okay. Just do me a favor. Don't put the Ruth Chris's customers on the same platform. Identify them as separate customers and build a different experience platform across the whole 4 dimensions that we talked about, but separate them, evolve. Understand that they cannot be there because you are bound to be in a numbers game in the traditional survey platform. You won't be able to pull them out unless they are on a separate platform. And just as, let's say in B2B, you have strategic accounts leaders that are separate from the rest of the sales team, so the story of delivery and surveys needs to happen as well. There should be a continuity that doesn't lump the HICs in the traditional one, because by definition, you will end up statistically insignificant number and you'll ignore them. It's just what it is.
We're going to leave the audience with, I think, 3 tips that I think are important to understand with how this is truly different, these high impact customers with their experience. And you've already mentioned one, Lior, that every experience counts with high impact customers. If you're taking the risk of lumping them in with everyone else and hoping that an algorithm identifies them to be followed up on, it's too big of a risk. Every high impact customer verbatim will need to be read by someone and often acted on at an individual level. So there's no high impact customers that don't count. And the platform should be able to easily drill down to these individual customers, manage the service resolution at an individual customer level, and resolve each and every individual customer that is identified as high impact.
Absolutely. I would say even let them know that they are now upgraded to a high impact. Let them know that they're being treated in a special way, that they're being separated. That's going to help you even build the notion that they are, that you understand and you hear their emotional attachment to your value and you respect it.
Without a doubt. Now, the second one I'm calling high impact customers as partners. So we talked about this a little bit, that they're more than a customer, they're a partner. One tip that I've learned recently, PeopleMetrics made an acquisition of a company called the Center for Strategy Research, and they focus, Lior, on small panels of customers that form advisory boards. These are 50 to 300 customers, and they ask them questions every month, and it's some are about the experience, some are about things that the company is considering doing in the future, and they're truly creating a group of high impact customers that are partners with the company, and we're facilitating those conversations between them on a daily basis.
I think that a high impact customer, the notion of a survey is a post-delivery interaction.
Yeah.
Which means we decided for you, and now we just want to make sure we didn't miss anything, or you did not forget to send us the thank you letter, so we're giving you a platform to do that. The notion of partnership requires us to interact with them beforehand and during, and allow us to build a relationship that is much more respectful of the, I don't know if reciprocity or equality or partnership nature of how we work. But understand, traditional service is post.
Yep.
Partnership is during and before, and it's expanding the horizon of collaboration with them.
Right. These might be 30-minute in-depth conversations with these folks. I mean,
But
that's what it is.
But they'll invest it if they know that it's taken seriously.
Right. The final tip, and this is right in your wheelhouse, Lior, like training your high impact customer facing team and even the back office. That is so important in terms of curating and delivering these experiences. And I know that you're someone who's done a lot of this over the years, and just wondered if you could just comment on that piece of it and why it's so important for high impact.
Sure,
customers.
absolutely. So first of all, I call it empowering as opposed to training.
Yeah.
Which is building the passion, the performance, and the practice among these people. And let me explain what I mean by that and why is it different. The traditional training is saying every interaction, you should mention the customer name 5 times. And then like robotically, we're mentioning it 5 times. Is that personal? No. We just check a box because somebody scripted for us what we should be doing. That's training for me. In today's world, especially with high impact customers, I need to evolve constantly. I need to adapt to what I'm hearing and responding accordingly. And that is a new skill set that requires a great deal of empowerment and confidence for our employees. It's much easier to hide behind a script, much easier, because then I can say I've done it, but it's robotic, it's not personable, it's not human, it's not authentic. We need to give them empowerment to be authentic and to be confident in doing that, which takes a different skill set than what they've been trained to do before. This is not about repetition. This is about sense and respond. This is about sensitivity to the emotions and to the voice and to the tone and to the choice of words, as opposed to, oh, they asked for this, I respond with that. So that is a new empowerment platform that needs to build the skills, the confidence, and the passion, because at the end of the day, Sean, here's the simple truth. If we want to come across as an authentic brand, if we want to come across as caring for the HICs, we're now asking employees to bring to the table a set of skills that they need to choose to bring. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. There's no money in the world that I can pay someone to smile sincerely. I can pay them to smile, but not sincerely. Sincerely is a personal choice. It has to come from intrinsic motivation, not from extrinsic motivation. And the same thing is with creativity, with leadership, with thinking outside of the box, with caring. All of these skills are not scripted, are not KPI'd. They're things that we ask employees to volunteer from their repository of skills. And that requires empowering people to believe, to think, to be proud. It's a different skill set. It's not training.
Empowerment is such a better word, and thank you for bringing that up. It's an
empowerment platform,
without a doubt. I know we've gone a little over, right, Alexandra?
Yes.
But this has been such a great conversation. It's been, we wanted to keep going.
Yeah, it certainly has. And Lior, Sean, thank you for taking the time today to dive into this wonderful topic. And thank you all for attending. Again, this will be sent out via email. And we will also be sending out this downloadable chart as well. And if you ever want to check out some of our old PeopleMetrics live sessions, that is on our YouTube channel. And if you look in the description, each of those sessions have the downloadable PDF as an extra tip to hold on to. So yes, I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon and hope to see you on our next PeopleMetrics live session.
Thanks for joining, Lior. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye.